And welcome in, everybody, to the Belly Up Super Bowl show here on Super Bowl Sunday, the biggest football day of the year. We are excited to have everything you need to know going into the big game today with a panel of hosts from around the country talking about the biggest game of the year. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and listen to a season in review of how we got here.
The 2024-2025 season has had more twists than a pretzel factory. The Bears finally figured out what to do with their first overall pick, and Caleb Williams rolled into Chicago, becoming the city's biggest sensation since deep dish pizza. That is until Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders came in and proved that Jaden was the prince that was promised, leaving Caleb and the Bears sitting on the sideline looking like the Mad Kings. The Chiefs, well, they were in their reputation era all season. Swifties continued to pack the stands like it was an Eras Tour NFL edition, and Mahomes was out here making defenses look like they were in their cruel summer. Even with Taylor trading her red scarf for a red Chief jacket, there's only one jacket wearing Big Red in Kansas City, as Andy Reid had opposing coaches shaking it off after every close victory from the Chiefs. Speaking of stories, Dan Campbell's Lions didn't just maintain their success, they doubled down. Turns out kneecap biting isn't just a maintainable strategy, it's a good one, especially when you've got a roster hungrier than gremlins after midnight. Detroit wasn't just out here playing football, they were out here to make a point, making every single NFC North team question their life choices. The NFC East continued to live up to its reputation as the NFL's most chaotic division. In a move more fitting for a Dallas team, the Giants decided to let Saquon walk, where he ended up with the Eagles, where he was on the doorstep of history all season long and now finds himself in New Orleans. While the Cowboys, they forgot the importance of an on-field performance, as Jerry Jones looked like he was collecting dust for a retirement home. The Commanders surprised everyone under Dan Quinn with rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. But then there was the Giants, who after letting Saquon go, spent the season making their fans miss him even more, as the offense looked about as coordinated as a toddler's first dance recital. Drama in the NFC East continued to be better than a Netflix top 10 series. Joe Burrow came back like he's in Revenge of the Sith and had the AFC North sitting on their heels questioning what him and Jamar Chase are up to next. The man was dropping dimes like he had holes in his pockets, making the Bengals offense look like a video game on rookie mode. Meanwhile, in a tale of two cities, San Francisco couldn't figure it out after losing CMC to an Achilles injury and then Deebo Samuel to a case of the yips. But Buffalo, on the other hand, MVP Josh Allen and the rest of the Bills were out here trying to break the physics engine that is Madden 25. But here we are today, Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. You have Arrowhead's favorite pop star looking to rewrite Love's story after another potential Chiefs championship, and the Eagles on the other side looking to deliver some karma after their Kelsey Bowl loss 2 years ago. This season has been filled with rookie sensations and comeback stories, record-breaking performances, and jaw-dropping plays. Once again, proving that the NFL is better than anything from our wildest dreams. Taylor's version, of course. The only question left, well, that's not true, there's two questions. Who's taking home the hardware from the Big Easy? And will Travis Kelce need to make room for another ring next to that friendship bracelet?
All right, and I mentioned it earlier too. We got a panel of hosts here to join us to talk about the big game. Starting up first, we got Antonio from the Sideline Summit podcast. Antonio, thanks for joining us here today.
Yeah, of course, excited to talk some Super Bowl, Eagles, Chiefs, rematch. Very excited.
Absolutely. And then we got a duo from the Corner Booth podcast. We will start first and foremost with the fearless leader, Jared Klim, also known as CJ Gardner-Johnson's PR specialist / biggest hater, depending on which day of the week it is.
How we doing, guys?
Glad to have you with us. And of course, the betting aficionado himself and TikTok's favorite Italian stallion. We got Matt Ordazzo, the co-host of the Corner Booth. Glad to have you both with us today.
Ooh, I like that intro. No, I'm happy to be here. As soon as you guys asked, just for everything you guys do for us, I just wanted to pay you back the favor.
Hey, we're glad to have you all here. We got a huge game to talk about on the year. Biggest one, we got the rematch that just about everybody wanted besides everybody. So we got the Eagles taking on the Chiefs. We're going to go ahead and start by taking a look at sort of the storylines of how we got here. What are some of the games for each one going through the playoff runs? We're going to start with the Eagles due to who we have on the panel with us. Tony, I'm starting with you first. The Eagles, two very, very comfortable, easy wins in the playoffs. Then a closer than they'd like one with the Rams. Tell me what you thought about the Eagles' run through the playoffs to get here.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, that Rams game was, I would say, almost needed because very similar to their 2022 run, they kind of just steamrolled their competition. It was a Giants team that, sorry, Nate probably didn't deserve to be there, and then a Niners team without their young star-studded quarterback. So I think in a run like this, they set the tone against the Packers defensively. The Rams, it kind of took all phases of the ball, and then in the Commanders game, they dominated all phases of the ball. So that tad bit of adversity, along with playing nearly a perfect game against Washington, I think it really sets them up to be they're battle tested. They've seen the Chiefs before. It's a slightly different iteration, but I don't think they could be more prepared for this matchup, especially with the new additions to the coaching staff. Nick Sirianni's second go around in the Super Bowl. Iron sharpens iron, and adversity makes for great tales. So they've definitely sharpened up since the last time they've been here.
Absolutely, 100%. Two completely different runs and getting that extra game in the wild card round, unlike in 2022 as well. So, Jared, with the Eagles, I'm kind of curious. Tell me what you think of their playoff run as well. What do you think of the Birds on their route to the Super Bowl 59?
Well, aside from it being probably the most stressful month of January I've ever had in my life, probably since 2017. Like Antonio said, 2022 was basically me sitting back, kicking my feet up, and watching them whoop people up and down the field. Packers game was ugly. We did what we had to do to win, or they had to do it. It's not we. The Eagles should have been up by so much more. This was the definition of playing with their food. They basically could have put them away easy. The Rams game was a nail biter. Any Sean McVay team is always a hard team to get away, especially with Matt Stafford at the helm. The Commanders was experience in the playoffs and a complete team versus an upstart team with holes to fill in the offseason. I think the Commanders are an upstart roster, but they ran into a very irritated and very annoyed buzzsaw in Philadelphia, who still probably remembered the Week 16 loss to them. So it was kind of a good mix here and there. Hurts, I think, played well. I think he gets a pass for me on the Rams game, kneeing bent backwards or sideways, and, an inch and a half of snow on the ground. I'll give him a pass. He did what he needed to do to win. So it'll be an interesting game tomorrow or today.
Absolutely. And Matt, we're going to have you round things off here. The Eagles playoff run, how are we feeling about it?
I think it's been great. Big reason why they got there, I would say, is that pass rush and Saquon Barkley. Like Jared was saying, the Packers game's a little ugly. But they overall, these last three playoff games they played, they got 10 sacks, and Saquon Barkley has well over, I think, 300 to 400 rushing yards in that game. How many touchdowns that man has had. But a big key to victories for the Philadelphia Eagles this playoff run has been just the reliance of Saquon Barkley in that run game, just breaking off for those insane runs. The touchdowns that he has gotten and the sacks that the defense has gotten to keep them in these games, keep those quarterbacks in third and long situations, and just really putting the pressure on the opposing team. I mean, I don't know how many Packers players left that game hurt, but Jared's over there. I'm talking about Jordan Love. He did not look comfortable at all when he was trying to throw the ball against that Phillies D. And that defense just applying pressure on those opposing quarterbacks and just giving that ball to Saquon is just such a key to success for them. And I think that's how they got to this point. It's just that defense, that pass rush, and Saquon Barkley in the playoffs.
Absolutely as well. We're going to now circle things talking about the Chiefs here, but we're not going to talk about how they got here. I want to look at some of the things they're going to be dealing with in this game. First of all, looking to become the first three-peat champion in NFL history. And only 9 teams have won even back-to-back championships. They're going for something never done before. Patriots are the last franchise to reach 3 consecutive Super Bowls, 17 through 19, and they lost in 18 to the Eagles. So I'm kind of curious. I'm going to circle right back to you, Matt, and go around the horn again. How much pressure you think is on the Chiefs having to basically you're fighting with history right now as well. You're 15 in one season. You're trying to do something no one's ever done before. For the last year and some change, this has been the goal at this point. What kind of pressure do you think is going on right now? Do you think they're feeling it, or do you think they're loose as a goose?
I think they're more loose than maybe feeling it. This is a team and a franchise under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes that has had so much success that I think winning Super Bowls, it just feels like another day to them. And they seem very relaxed, very calm, very collected. I'm sure they're aware of the history going on. There is a lot of pressure on them, whether they're showing it or they're not showing it. You had the first chance to do, one of the, something that hasn't been done in how long, just a three-peat in the Super Bowl. And that's Tom Brady level type things for Patrick Mahomes to do to elevate him to the next level, to solidify him as maybe the greatest of all time going forward, potentially. So there's a lot of pressure on them. They should be feeling it, but this at the same time, this is the best team that they have not only played this season, but in the playoffs with this Philadelphia Eagles team. So the pressure is definitely on Kansas City to get that three-peat. We'll see if they can get that done.
Absolutely. And Antonio, I'm going to phrase a different question for you on this one. So far, the Chiefs have been to 4 Super Bowls in the last handful of years. This will be their 4th one. They played two opponents. They had the 49ers, then they had the 49ers again in the rematch. They had the Eagles, now they got the Eagles again in the rematch. How do you think the rematch this time, how do you think they're going to compare to when they played the 49ers? And do you think it's almost like a similar vibe, or do you think this is going to be completely different with that pressure trying to three-peat and some of these other storylines going in?
I think the main difference between the Eagles and the 49ers, taking turns, going at the Chiefs in the Super Bowl is when the first time the Niners are there, you look at Jimmy Garoppolo and like you would be absolutely baffled if this guy retired as the starting quarterback of a team that won a Lombardi. And Brock Purdy is a good middle of the pack quarterback. But you could look at the Niners and be like, maybe if they had someone else there, they probably win that Super Bowl. Not to even say he necessarily played bad. He's just not the type of guy to go out there and make those extra plays to do it. We've watched Jalen Hurts the last time out. They put the ball in his hands to tie the game. 2-point conversion, a quarterback sweep. Nothing was there, and he made his way through a ton, along with a bunch of other plays. And luckily, last week, he got a chance to, really let the ball rip across the field. Had a few rushing touchdowns as well. So he's starting to, get into his groove at the right time. So I think because of the playmaking ability of Jalen Hurts, and I think more so the more dominant trenches that Philly has over San Francisco, I think the Chiefs can feel a little bit more pressure, a little bit more of a threat coming from Philadelphia. But of course, you still have to go out there and do the thing for Philadelphia, regardless of how many first round picks you hit on, what superstars you sign. It took the Avengers twice to beat Thanos. So that's how I kind of look at it. They have that star-studded ability at quarterback. As if we have to put the ball in his hands to win the game, he can certainly do it, unlike Garoppolo and Purdy.
Sometimes second time is a charm when you have the Avengers. And Jared, for this last one we're gonna look at, we're gonna talk a little bit of money here. So tickets for the game starting at just under $3,700 plummeted down to roughly $2,500, which over a 30% drop as of, I believe it was Thursday, going into the game at the Caesars Superdome. Do you think it's the matchup cause, or what do you think might have caused a ticket drop, or are you in the same boat of maybe it's just way too darn much money that people don't want to spend on that?
I think it's more of the latter. I mean, everyone wants to complain about how it's a Super Bowl nobody wants, but you got probably the best matchup out of the games. I mean, Buffalo Philly would have been fun, but everyone wants to see the bullies of both conferences. That's kind of as much as it's not fun for all the fan bases. I hear you, Giants fans, Cowboys fans, Raiders fans, Broncos, whatever. I think the problem is the Superdome is not Vegas. It's not one of these high-end stadiums. It's your run-of-the-mill dome. And $3,700 at the jump is insane. I remember when I was a kid, they were talking about like $1,000 maybe for a decent ticket in the Super Bowl. Now $3,700 for a nosebleed at the very top of the dome is insane to me. I think this may have been more of everyone's wallets are still hurting. Maybe not drop 3.7 G's on a ticket. That's, I think, more or less the storyline there.
Back in our day, not to sound like an old man, but $1,000 could get you a nice ticket. Now it won't even get you a parking spot. So the one thing that people will be tuning in for more than likely, though, they say they won't be watching, but they will all be watching roughly when the second quarter ends, because that will be start of the halftime show with Kendrick Lamar as the headliner. A lot going in on this one, a lot to keep an eye out on for. Of course, we'll call it a beef just to be polite on this one between him and Drake going into it. Potentially $60 million lawsuit on the line, depending on a song being played. We're going to go around the gauntlet. I'm going to start with Antonio, since I know you have a bit of a rooting interest here. What are we thinking about the headlines going into this halftime show around it? Do we think it's going to live up to it, or do we think maybe it's getting a little blown out of proportion?
I say Kendrick Lamar, as an artist who is usually to himself, when is put in the spotlight, he absolutely performs. Whether it's the rap beef, he just dropped the album, SZA's on a lot of songs there. So I think he's going to do absolutely phenomenal. He's a great performer. Let me not put it lightly, and he is going to have SZA. So I think having the combination of targeting basically the male audience, the female audience. Will he test his luck and play that song? I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure, but I mean, he could have one of the all-time great halftime show performances. And he truthfully would not have to play a song that he dropped in the last 2 years. He could, like, I don't know if you can see over here, I have a Good Kid, Mad City vinyl. Like that To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, like he could play stuff from simply just that, and he'd put on a great show. But I have high expectations for it, even as, you know, a big of a Drake fan as I am.
I'm not gonna lie. If I could pick a single song, I want Poetic Justice on there. That's the one I wanted to play. That's the one I'm looking forward to. Which also could have a really nice round way of getting through things without costing much money. So, Jared, you also have a strong opinion on this one too. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts going into the halftime show? Do you think it will overperform, underperform, or are you just here for the potential chaos?
I think Kendrick, like Antonio said, is going to deliver. He is one of those. There's a reason he's considered one of the all-time greats of the rap game, at least in recent years. Been lucky enough to watch him basically start off from a small mixtape from a kid out of Compton under Dre's label when I was a senior in high school. His first songs came out, at least for mass popularity, to now. It's kind of cool seeing how much he's progressed as an artist. I think I may have a theory of how he's going to get around not getting sued. If y'all remember, when he performed the song, I think it was a Staples Center, he had the crowd say the certain lyric that is part of the song. So I think there is a legal loophole there, possibly, where he has the crowd say the lyric, and he can say in court, I didn't say anything. The crowd did. So that certain song in question may, I think, still be performed because he won a Grammy for it. No, he won 4 Grammys for it. I think, honestly, I would be remiss to see maybe if he could find a way around it being the performer he is.
If there's a will, there's a way. So you know what? There's a chance he could pull it off.
Whatever
You don't
the
win
chaos.
5 Grammys for it and not end up playing it. So they'll find a way for it. So Matt, I'll let you round us off on this one. How are we feeling about the halftime show? Do you think it's going to overperform, underperform? What are we thinking?
Oh, I think it's going to perform just perfectly. I am here for the chaos, and I think that's what's going to not like ensue, but like I think he's going to play everything he wants to play. I think he will play, you know, that certain track that, you know, everybody's wondering if he is or isn't going to play. Like Jared said, he won 4 or 5 Grammys for that. And let's not forget, he wore a Canadian tuxedo to accept awards. This man is petty. This man will play that song. He may or may not figure out a way to get around it, but I think either way, he's going to play the song. He's going to accept whatever happens from it. And I'm very excited. Like Antonio was saying, he could play that song. He could play older songs from 10 years ago or so. He just has such great albums and such great hits that nobody really talks about from back when. I mean, I'm going to be 30 this year. Back when I was in high school and college, I was playing a lot of his hits from back when a lot of, like, maybe Nate was in middle school. So he can play a lot of the old ones and still get a great show out of it. But I'm very much expecting him to play that certain track that we were all anticipating him to do so.
Some way that it's going to find its way in there. I also think he'd be incredibly petty since it's in New Orleans. He found a way to get Lil Wayne to perform with him too. Just considering Drake and Wayne have a relationship, it's in New Orleans. It'd be interesting if they could find a way to do that. There'd be an underlying amount of pettiness. I'd be all for it.
So I actually have a thing on that. We brought it up. Lil Wayne was not happy. He was not selected for the Super Bowl. So there was a little bit of a after selection beef, I guess. I highly doubt Lil Wayne will make an appearance, unfortunately. Maybe we get Birdman, though. That might not be a bad substitution.
It's all smoke screens. It's NFL draft season, but Super Bowl halftime shows. He's just saying that, and then he's going to come swinging from this Superdome rafters. It's going to happen until not, but that's what we have for the intro of the Super Bowl. Now we're going to start talking about the teams individually. We're going to start with the 2-time defending champion Chiefs, but before we get too deep into it, let's go and take a look back at how they got here.
The Chiefs started their season like they were ready for it, proving all the doubters wrong who thought their love story with success was over. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce had the offense running smoother than a 1989 Corvette, while the defense was making opposing quarterbacks look like they were having their own cruel summer. September had the Chiefs in their fearless era, with Mahomes throwing touchdowns like Taylor throws Easter eggs in her lyrics. The Arrowhead crowd was so loud you couldn't tell if it was game day or if Taylor dropped another surprise album. By mid-season, though, they hit a few bumps. Let's call it their midnight rain period. But like Taylor's career, you can't keep greatness down for long. The offense bounced back faster than you can say shake it off, with Kelce catching passes like he was collecting friendship bracelets. December came around and the Chiefs were in the red-hot era. Defense was giving opposing offenses bad blood, while Mahomes was out there making plays that had fans saying, "Long live the Chiefs dynasty." The Chiefs haven't just been playing football, They've been looking to write their own love story with history. By the time January rolled around, the team was operating at peak mastermind level. Every touchdown, every win had fans saying, "You belong with me," to another Lombardi trophy. The playoff push? Pure enchanted football. Each home game at Arrowhead was its own mini Heroes Tour, with Sweet 13 becoming the NFL's hottest ticket since, well, an actual Taylor Swift concert. This season has all of us wondering what the end game is. Whether they were playing in style or grinding out wins in their wildest dreams, one thing was clear. This Chiefs team was proving that they were never going out of style. The Chiefs must be asking, are you ready for it? Because this season has proven to be more epic than a 10-minute version of any football story ever told. Can they pull it off in the Big Easy? Does Travis deliver a very special friendship bracelet? Will we see a three-peat? These are the questions that must be answered in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59.
All right. And now with the keys to the game for the Chiefs, we got Brian G from the 3rd and 10 podcast who's going to tell us what the Chiefs need to do to make history.
What's up, boys? Thank you so much for letting me be a part of the show. Sorry I can't be there in person, but, things happen. Glad to give you why the Chiefs are going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles in this year's Super Bowl. I guess there's no Chiefs fans at the company, so we have to go with the Philly hater. So there are 3 reasons why I think the Chiefs team are going to win. Number 1 is Steve Spagnuolo. Now, if you remember Super Bowl 42, Spagnuolo was the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants against the undefeated New England Patriots. He came up with the perfect game plan to stop what was seemingly an unstoppable unstoppable New England offense. That O-line was one of the greatest we've ever seen. He got that defensive line to hit Brady 5 times. It's long been considered the perfect game plan. So I think we're going to see a repeat performance when he stops Saquon Barkley and doesn't let him get those big games that we've seen him get all postseason long that basically sank the Commanders at the beginning of the NFC Championship game. Number 2, Eagles O-line, a little banged up. You got Landon Dickerson with a knee injury and Ken Jerkson with a back injury, both on the injury report for the Birds. They're going to play because it's the Super Bowl, and, if you're not playing the Super Bowl, why are you playing football? But we've all seen it when you're injured and banged up. It's kind of hard to get that same level. I don't think we're going to be able to stop a guy like Chris Jones, who's going to make it, it's going to make things really hard for Hurts to throw the ball. And when, Hurts is getting pressure constantly and he doesn't have Saquon Barkley to rely on, you're making Jalen Hurts basically win the game with his arm. And in the past, that's not been a recipe for success, okay? He's very inconsistent with his arm. And if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be very worried about Jalen trying to win us this game by throwing the football. It worked last week against the championship game. It's worked in the past, but it hasn't always worked. And it's not, something you can rely on like Mahomes throwing the ball. Similarly, Jalen Carter on the Eagles defensive line. He's battling an illness right now that, stopped him on Wednesday. It made him really, it didn't perform. Now, like I said, he'll probably play too, but we've all tried to do stuff after coming off a cold. It's not the same. People are already thinking that Trey Smith was enough to stop Jalen Carter. If Jalen Carter's sick and he's going up against a great offensive guard like Trey Smith, that, game-wrecking ability he has is not going to be there. So I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to hit Mahomes. I think Mahomes is going to have time to be able to find his guys, to be able to find guys like Kelsey, and that's going to be big for them. And finally, Vic Fangio is 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes in his career. I know that came with a really bad Denver Broncos team, but Mahomes knows this defense, okay? I don't care how star-studded that defense is. Mahomes knows the weak points. He knows how to attack it. He knows what works and what doesn't work with Vic Fangio, and he is going to use that to a full extent. That is going to come in really hard with getting the advantage on the Eagles defense. And finally, if the Chiefs are going to win this game, they need somebody other than Travis Kelce to perform. I think Kelce is going to have a big game, not necessarily like a big, play like he have, but I think we're going to see a lot of, dink and dunks, 5 to 7 yard games, and by like the 3rd or 4th quarter, you'll be like, man, Kelce's got like 70 yards off 8 receptions. Wow, he's really having himself a ball game. But I think you need a guy like Xavier Worthy to have like a couple 20 to 30 yard receptions. I think he's the most likely candidate, but even if it's a guy like Hollywood Brown, who just came back from injury, or DeAndre Hopkins, big plays to just take momentum and the wind out of Philly's sail. So give me the Chiefs. I'm going 23-17. Thank you guys so much. If you want more of my stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at BrianPG1016 or my YouTube show, The Third 10 Podcast. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate that. For the keys to the game for the Chiefs, I'm going to start with you, Antonio. What do you think of his keys, and do you think there's a chance they will be able to implement them, or do you think there's another route the Chiefs will have to go if they want to try and secure victory?
I think, he mentioned the where to target certain players on the Vic Fangio defense, and luckily their strong suit being Travis Kelce. The slot corner is something that Andy Reid loves to target. So I'm interested to see if he'll go. He's going to have no choice but to try to go with Cooper DeJean and Zach Bond, they've both been absolutely incredible. I am a little worried about, relying on someone else to make a big play. Yeah, it's dink and dunk, but Vic Fangio is the king of bend, don't break. But I have to agree. I mean, one way or another, someone else is going to have to try and make a play. And Coach Spags is probably, I don't even think it's debatable, best defensive mind in the NFL at the moment. Where I would say they could run into trouble on that one is you're about as good as, as I've seen you recently. And Jalen Hurts was absolutely on one against the blitz last week. So, and he's seen Spags before. It's not like Spags can show him something that he's never seen before. But again, I think regardless of how Jalen Hurts is, has been or has not been good against pressure, you still got to try to dial it up and give him different looks. So yeah, I would basically say keeping the Hurts on his toes mentally, and yeah, trying to find someone as a performer outside of Kelce. I agree with, because I'm going to be honest with you, the Chiefs know firsthand that Jalen Hurts very well can beat you with his arm, and a lot of teams learn that the hard way. It's one of the most dried out narratives in the NFL. But I do agree. I think the keys lie with Spags, and it lies with Andy Reid seeing if he can find a way to make some plays outside of just Mahomes and Kelce buddy ball.
Absolutely, and I believe it's Cooper DeJean now, based on the T-shirt that he made. I think it's good. It's good. I think he's changed. I think he's starting to add a little John to the name too. So we might have to change that depending on how the game he has. So, Jared, we're going to swing this one to you now as well too. What do you think for the Chiefs' keys of victory, and what do they have to do if they want to try and secure the win?
Well, a couple things I want to clarify. As of this morning, all the Eagles on the injury report, outside of Britton Covey, are selected to play, or are going to play. All the guys with illness are 100% ready to go as of Saturday. That's not Friday's report. Other than that, Chris Jones' stats against against the Eagles last Super Bowl, I can read them out for you right now. 3 combined tackles, 1 solo tackle. Oh no, sorry. 1 assist, 2 solo tackles. No sacks, no tackles for a loss. Philadelphia has always had a game plan for elite defensive tackles. Go talk to Aaron Donald. You don't believe me? Go check his interview. I believe it was on the 25 and 10 podcast with LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson. He's not what scares me. What scares me is, yes, Spags' blitz packages. Now, Jalen Hurts has been phenomenal against the blitz, against Antonio said. But also, since 2022, A.J. Brown is the number 1 receiver in the league for catches, yards, and I believe touchdowns against man coverage, which the Chiefs love to run. Other than that, I think that most teams are both. I think both sides are pretty healthy. Dickerson and Juergens looked good in practice. Allegedly, this is obviously all hearsay from guys who had access, but they looked healthy. They were full participants in practice. I think all these little knick-knack little things for the Chiefs that are supposed to be in the Chiefs' favor are going to dissipate very quickly. But I will say the Chiefs, you have to respect them because Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league for a reason. And yes, giving the ball to Travis Kelce is essential. I think the key is Isaiah Pacheco. Do not abandon the run if you're the Chiefs. If you abandon the run and you make Pat have to drop back and just take shots, because I think, if I do remember correctly, they abandoned the run against Tampa in 2021, and that's where they ran into trouble with that Buccaneers pass rush with Shaquille Barrett and JPP. So in that essence, I would say the Chiefs have to stick to their game plan just as much as Philly has to stay to theirs and not abandon the run early with Hunt and Pacheco to keep Jalen Hurts and the Eagles off the field, obviously, with Saquon Barkley running the football.
Absolutely. And now, Matt, for the Chiefs, what do they have to do if they want to win this game and get the first ever three-peat? What do you think the Chiefs have to do in this game?
Yeah, and I think Ben made some pretty good points, just addressing some of the illnesses or the injuries on the Eagles, and especially with the offensive line. I mean, listen, the Philly is known for having just a curtain of an offensive line, just having one of the best ones that you can possibly have. So obviously they got to attack the weaknesses, attack the injuries that they're going to be facing. Looking at some of the stats defensively, so there's really no bright spot for the Chiefs in the sense of the Eagles have the number one total defense, the number one passing defense. The only maybe cushion that the Chiefs have right now is, like Jared was saying, so the Eagles have the number 10 rushing defense, so they got to get the ball moving on the ground. So for me, key to victories for the Chiefs are going to be getting Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco involved. Kareem Hunt has been involved a little more heavily than Pacheco as of late, but maybe they get Pacheco going as a little sneaky option, just somebody that maybe they're not prepping for because he hasn't been used that much since coming back from injury. But the Eagles give up about 104.2 yards per game on the ground. So if I'm the Chiefs, I'm going to try and get the ball going early in the run game as well. And like you were saying, I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day. You got the best quarterback in the league. You got the best coach in the league, and the Chiefs. Spagnuolo is obviously a fantastic defensive coordinator. So there's a lot of things that are riding on the Chiefs side with this. Statistically, it's all in the Eagles' court, so let's just see if they can just kind of keep that going. But for me, key to victory, simple: Chiefs, run the ball, get the ball going on the ground.
Very good, very interesting. I think keys to the game are also just be the Chiefs. Like guys like Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis have literally never lost a playoff game in their life at this point. So they do have a lot of guys that know nothing but winning. So they got to stay with what they do. Next up, we're looking at the NFC challengers with the Philadelphia Eagles. And before we get into that, let's take a look back at how the Eagles got here.
The Eagles' 2024-2025 season got started before it ever began, pulling in Saquon Barkley in free agency after the Giants decided to let him walk. That move had the NFL buzzing like a South Street Saturday night before the first kickoff. September started and the birds were soaring high. Barkley was running through defenses like he was trying to hit every cheesesteak spot in Philly in one day. The former Giant turned Eagle was making the Giants front office look like they'd made a bigger mistake than passing on a Wawa hoagie. Jalen Hurts was making the tush push look like high art, while Saquon continued to take screen passes and turn them into highlight reels that belonged on permanent display at the link. October rolled in and the offense was clicking on all cylinders. Barkley and Hurts in the backfield had defensive coordinators looking more confused than tourists trying to find parking at Reading Terminal Market. The duo was putting up numbers that fantasy football managers doing double takes. But then November happened. And oh boy, did it happen. Even though Saquon was breaking ankles and taking names, the wheels weren't just wobbling. They started doing their own thing entirely. The defense began looking more like a slice of Swiss cheese, but it was Barkley's consistent production that was the comfort food Eagles fans needed to get through. December brought a mix of brilliance and bewilderment. One week, the Eagles looked like Super Bowl contenders with Barkley ripping off 150-plus yard games. But the next, they were trying to figure out which end zone was theirs. Thankfully, Barkley had his revenge game against the Giants, and let's just say he ran angrier than someone who found out their favorite food truck was closed. That revenge game against the Giants turned into a playoff push that had more drama than a Rocky movie marathon. Barkley turned into Philadelphia's new favorite son, breaking off runs that had fans forgetting he ever wore Giants blue. Every touch looked like he was auditioning for the next great Philadelphia sports legend montage. The offense started clicking just when the doubters getting loudest, and of course, 26 was leading the charge. Now, as we look back at this wild ride, one thing's for sure. This Eagles season had more plot twists than an M. Night Shyamalan movie. And Saquon Barkley, he might just have been the best plot twist of them all. Whether they're hoisting the Lombardi or planning for next year, one thing remains consistent. Philadelphia's passion for the birds never wavers. And they found a new hero in 26. The question remains, can Saquon, Jalen, and the exciting Whites end the Chiefs' chances at a three-peat in New Orleans?
All right, and with the Eagles' keys to the games, we do have, as I mentioned earlier in the show, CJ Gardner-Johnson's press secretary, as well as his biggest hater, Jared, leading us with 3 keys to victories for the Eagles. So, Jared, what do the Eagles got to do if they want to pull off the upset?
One, be the menaces they are on defense. Cause turnovers, punch the ball out, make everything an uphill battle. Philadelphia this year, I believe, has his turnover margin is at least in the playoffs is plus 10. I know in regular season I think it was a little higher. But I know they're plus 10 turnover margin. Also forcing 3 fumbles and I believe at least one interception against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Now, The defense obviously is one thing. Vic Fangio sticking to his game plan and making sure that the Eagles' athletic and sometimes overpowering defense stays in their lane and plays their game plan. Second key is even if it ain't working early, do not abandon the run. Saquon Barkley, a lot of his games this year were where it was 3 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 80 yards. That's how he plays. That's how he operates. Not everything's going to be a 70-yard run off the rip like Washington. And last but not least, do not fall into the Chiefs' trap of playing to their tempo, to their skill set, playing their game. The Chiefs are the champions of psychological football, much like the Patriots before them. I honestly want to write a book on this subject. When the 49ers in the Super Bowl last year, the Ravens for the last 2 years, the Bills, when they abandon what they do best to try to keep up with the Chiefs, they will always lose. Philadelphia sticking to their game plan is the biggest key to this game. If they do that, they should not have an issue winning. That's it. Also, love you, CJ GJ. You've earned my respect this year. Bring that energy.
You know what? I got a word from our guys in the back. If you do write a book, I feel terrible for that editor. So Nate, if you are the editor, I'm sorry in advance. You got your work cut out for you trying to turn that book into English.
I'm gonna drop a Brinks truck off at Nate's house and just say, "Hey, buddy, it's time."
You might need multiple Brinks trucks at this point, especially if he has to try and edit it with your voice a little bit raspy as well. So hopefully it clears up before you make him have to follow along. But Matt, what are we looking for keys of the game, and do you think Philly will be able to implement them?
My keys to victory for the Eagles would be if it's not broke, don't fix it. So there's nothing wrong with the run game. Saquon Barkley in the playoffs has 442 rushing yards. He's averaging 147.3 yards per game on the ground. The Chiefs have the number 8 rushing defense, allowing 101.8 yards per game. And like Jared was saying, if it doesn't get off quick in the beginning, don't give up, keep going. It's Saquon Barkley. It's the 2,000-yard rusher, best running back in the league this past year. I believe they got one of the best rushing offenses, if not the number 1 rushing offense in the league. So keep running the ball, keep feeding Saquon. Get Jalen Hurts involved. He can use his legs as well. He's dangerous on the ground. I mean, I've seen this guy have 130-something passing yards, but he has 3 or 4 touchdowns on the ground. So use that run game with Saquon, number 1. And then number 2, get Jalen Hurts involved. Just be dynamic. I mean, you've got not only Saquon and Hurts, you also got Kenny Gainwell that you can get involved in. It's just a 3-man rushing attack on this defense. My third one would be, again, with Jalen Hurts, use his arm. The Chiefs have the number 18 passing defense. Shout out to Kelsey for giving me that tidbit on last week's show. But the Chiefs had the number 18 passing defense. They allow 218 yards per game. Use your arm. We all know Jalen Hurts can throw the ball. He's not just a running quarterback. He can win games on his own. He can put the team on his back if he needs to be. Run the ball with Saquon. Run the ball with Jalen Hurts. Let Jalen Hurts throw the ball. And then let that defense just do what it's supposed to do. I mean, I think the big reason why the Eagles are here as we speak right now is because how we address the secondary with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. It is just a completely different defense for this team. I mean, they've got an amazing rushing passing. Why am I stumbling on my words? They got amazing pass rush defense. They got amazing secondary. And like, I know Vic Fangio is 0-8 against the Chiefs in his career, but this might be the same Vic Fangio defense he's been having for years and years, but this is a completely different skill set at those positions than the Denver Broncos and any other team he's coached for. This is going to be a big test for the Chiefs. So those are my key to victories. Run the ball, pass the ball, and let that defense do its thing.
Be the Eagles. That's it. Pretty much. Be the Eagles, win the game. That's very good. And Antonio, we'll round this off with you. What are the keys to the victory for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I think you guys put it beautifully. First and foremost, you have to win the turnover battle. Eagles have caused I believe 4 turnovers in their first playoff game, 2 in the next one, and then 4 in the next one. So, like Jared said, the not only getting turnovers, but not putting the ball in harm's way definitely goes a long way. But with that being said, yes, lean on Saquon Barkley. I expect nothing less than 25 touches in this game for him for the Offensive Player of the Year. But when it's time to rely on Jalen, I absolutely agree. Like, you can't live with the dink and dunk. And And that doesn't mean we can't, that doesn't mean don't throw the drags, don't throw, the quick hitches out to AJ that we saw a lot last week that I absolutely loved. But Kellen Moore just has to, every time that Jalen Hurts has been called upon by the national media to throw the ball, it's been an absolute masterclass, along with getting him involved in the run game. I would say even last week, he took the knee brace off, even though he got bent backwards by the Rams. And I thought he looked smooth on the draws that he had to run. He had the one really nice long touchdown run that got called back, unfortunately. But I think that's something he could take advantage of. While Nick Bolton is certainly a solidified, in basketball, we call it a 16-game player. Nick Bolton's a 3 to 4 game player. He's a real postseason player. So that's something they could take advantage of. So win the turnover battle, keep Jalen Hurts out of the straitjacket while also, feeding Saquon Barkley. And this third one, it's kind of ironic because I know Jared said don't play to the Chiefs tempo, but it's so ironic because Vic Fangio wants to do that, where the Chiefs we're just going to trot down the field, winning the mini battles. Vic Fangio's like, fine, win them all, because once you get to this red zone or once you get to the 30 yards and in, we're absolutely going to win this. So for the Eagles, it's either cause a turnover by then or have faith in your group that you're able to beat one of the top red zone offenses in the NFL once we get down there. So basically, bend, don't break. I also do want to mention that Vic Fangio has never beaten Patrick Mahomes. He also never had that, minus the defensive tools that he had in Denver. He never had that offense. He was rolling out there with Case Keenum, Trevor Siemian, great guys living their dream. They're not Jalen Hurts. So those are my key to the game for the Eagles. It's basically another iteration of what everyone else said.
Like I said, great guys. First guys in, last guys out. Real winners, real football guys. That's how we describe those quarterbacks. But
Sneaky athletic guys.
Very sneaky athletic.
Lunch
They get on the
bell
edge
guys.
and something that surprise you. Like that. I will also, the last thing I'll add with the Eagles too, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do. We know how much the Eagles hate Dallas, but I'm curious if Dallas is going to be a key factor in this game with Dallas Goedert. I think the way the Chiefs guard tight ends, I think he has the potential to have a big day for sure. And when their offense is rolling, it sometimes starts with Dallas Goedert, then everything gets easier with A.J. Brown. But you know what? He has some pretty reasonable numbers in the betting, so we're going to now transition to belly up bets. And before we get into the serious stuff, Kelsey's going to go and break it down for us with some of the fun Super Bowl prop bets. It's one of the best betting games of the entire year. So, Kelsey, let's have some fun with some betting.
And what's up, everybody? It's Kelsey from the High Low Sports Podcast, joining you today for Belly Up Bets. That's right, we're at the Super Bowl. There's always some fun props that go around. That's right, we're talking novelty props going into the Super Bowl. A lot of fun things. We got coin toss, anthems. We got a few more fun options. First one up, we're not even going to waste some time. We're going to go probably right into the booth of the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about Tom Brady's tie. There are plenty of options for Tom Brady's tie color this year. Now, there are some reasons why I don't think some of these colors will work, specifically team relations, including his own relations with the Raiders. I think that knocks a couple of these out as well. I definitely think he's wearing a tie, though. I don't think he can get away with not wearing a tie at the Super Bowl. So of these options here, the one I think most likely to happen for me, I'm picking is pink, because it's the closest thing to purple. Because purple's not one of these options that they have betting odds on. And that has something to do with New Orleans. Purple does for Mardi Gras colors. So give me pink, plus 1,200 for Tom Brady's tie color. We're probably going to start that one off, and we're going to find out quick and early before even the coin toss, and especially before the anthem. So moving on to the anthem, we have John Batiste's anthem over under 123.5 seconds. Now, he does have two major sporting events under his belt, both going under 123.5 seconds, both under 120 seconds for that matter. And because of that, and because I don't think he's playing the piano, although there are minus 400 odds that he does play the piano, I'm going with the under here, and under 123.5. I think we get under this anthem under 2 minutes. It's going to be very interesting to see whether he does, because depending on the sports bet book, it either starts with the first note and ends with the very last note, no matter whether it's voice or instrument, or some matter because it's instrument only or voice only. So be sure to pay attention to that on your preferred sports book. But yeah, that's our anthem. I'm going under on the 123.5. So far we have Tom Brady wearing pink, anthem going under 123.5 seconds. And now we're going into the coin toss. The game's almost there. We have one more bet before the game starts. It's a simple one. Heads or tails in the coin toss. Heads has won 4 straight years. Be sure to know tails is coming. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but heads obviously the odds-on favorite because it has happened multiple years in a row. But give me tails here. Plus 180 on the tails. I got to do it. I got to go with the underdog yet again. So far I have Brady going with the pink tie for plus 1200, under on the anthem for 123.5, which is a minus underdog odds, and then tails with another underdog odds. And now we're going to one which for sure has underdog odds, and that's the Gatorade color. This is one of the favorite things about whoever wins. I don't care in this game. I am not a fan of neither one of these teams at this point. So I don't care who wins, but what I do care about are one of these Gatorade colors being the chosen color for the winning team and the bath that they're giving their coach. As long as it's not none. Why that's an option, I hate it. If a team chooses not to do a Gatorade bath, you're un-American. Get out of here. Don't belong in the Super Bowl. Anyways, I'll die on that hill. Purple has been the choice the last 2 Super Bowls for Patty. However, yellow was the color of choice during his first Super Bowl win. The last time the Eagles won, it was orange. And that leaves red and blue as 2 options. Well, nobody really wants to drink blue Gatorade while they're playing. But red Gatorade, that red flavor, that's one of my favorite. Now, we did see clear in college a lot this year, especially in those colder games. You had a lot of clear Gatorade colors. Now it's probably just water because that's what's left over. So for this, I'm going red. I'm giving that plus 425 odds to go red here on the Gatorade color bath. I think it's the best opportunity, whether it's the Eagles or it's the Chiefs. I think this is the best opportunity to get one is red. And you know what they say? Use your enemy's colors because that's going to fuel your fire. All right. Anyways, that's my thoughts on these prop bets, but I'm not done yet because there is one more fun little prop bet, and that is between Taylor Swift and a touchdown. Which one happens first? Do we get a Taylor Swift live appearance, or do we get a touchdown first? The odds are minus 150 for a touchdown or plus 110 for Taylor Swift live shot. Now, this has to happen during the game and after the kickoff, not during the anthem, not during America Beautiful, during the game after kickoff. Do we get a Taylor Swift appearance or do we get a touchdown first? I personally think it might take a while to get our first touchdown. So because of that, give me Taylor Swift with the plus 110 odds here. A whole path of underdogs for all of my choices. Chris, the colors, though, maybe not so much because they're all underdogs at that point in time. They're all plus odds. So, yeah, we have a lot of great fun in the opportunities here. Depending on the state, you can obviously bet in some of these, can't bet in others. Just a reminder, bet safe. Don't bet anything you can't afford to lose. If you do have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or the number available in your state. All right, guys, that's all for me. I'm getting ready for the game. I know everybody else is. DJ, the crew, back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Kelsey. And I still think the Gatorade is going to be red. I am sticking with it. That is where my money is going for sure. Now we're going to go ahead and bring in Matt Ordazzo with Bets with Swagoo, who is going to tell us all about the serious bets that we need to know from over-unders, touchdowns, everything that we need from there. So, Matt, let's go and take it away. What bets are we making?
All right. Well, for anybody that knows this segment on the corner booth, you know that I like to use my little fancy bowler betting hat. But since it's the Super Bowl, you got to go all out. My wife never lets me wear this hat. Let me get my little wide brim fedora on for these fancy little bets we got cooked up on here. All right. Bets with Swagoo. Once again, my own little personal disclaimer. I am not telling you what to do. I'm not giving you advice. I'm not recommending you to do anything like this. This is just what I might do. Hey, if you want to do it, go for it. But don't blame me or Nate at Underdog if this does not work. Anyways, some touchdown scores. I got 2 for you. We'll make it nice and simple. Saquon Barkley and Kareem Hunt. I'm going with an anytime touchdown for those two. Both guys have scored a touchdown in pretty much each of their playoff games. Saquon didn't score one against the Packers, I believe it was. But in total in the last 3 games, he has 5. He has 5 total touchdowns in the last 3 playoff games. Kareem Hunt in the last 2 playoff games has 1 each game. He has been the more heavily used back for them. So I have a Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown and a Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown. Going over with the passing game. So like I mentioned, Jalen Hurts can throw the ball. We may not have seen it too much this season, but he has had a 2,000-yard rusher at his disposal. He hasn't had to really use his arm that much. He still can, though. We have seen it. And the Chiefs, like I mentioned previously, having the 18th defense against the pass. averaging 218 yards per game allowed to opponents. I'm taking the over on Hurts's 211.5 passing yards. And by the way, I'm getting this all on FanDuel. So if you use FanDuel, these are the odds that I have gotten as of recently. So I'm taking the over on Hurts 211.5 passing yards. Mahomes has not been having the year that we are used to seeing Mahomes have. But in the last 2 games, he's had at least 1 passing touchdown. So I'm going to take the alternate line here and take the Mahomes 1+ passing touchdown to play it safe. Kareem Hunt as well, like I was just mentioning. So the one cushion that the Chiefs have with this game defensively is that the Eagles have the number 10 rushing defense. They average 104.2 yards per game. Kareem Hunt has surpassed his line in each game this season, this playoff season. So he's at 42.5. He has rushed for more than that in the last 2 games. I'm taking the over on Kareem Hunt's 42.5 yards as well. And then I'm going down to, let's go to Travis Kelce. So Travis Kelce has been having an up and down season as well. But in the Super Bowl, his average stats are 7.8 receptions, 87.5 yards, and he usually averages about a half touchdown. So it's give or take. He may or may not score one. But the one that I'm looking at is the yardage right here. His reception line is 6.5, which is very close to the average. But him averaging 87.5 yards in the Super Bowl, his line's at 60.5. I'm going to take Kelce over 60.5 receiving. And then going to the other side of the ball with the Eagles at the tight end position, a lot of us are fixated on Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, and also A.J. Brown. But not everybody's talking about Dallas Goedert. And DJ just mentioned a good point about it just right before we went to this segment. But Dallas Goedert has been having a really good playoff series with the Eagles. He is sneakily the top target for them, just not a wide receiver for them, but he's been the sneaky top target on offense for them. And I'm going to take Dallas Goedert at over 49.5 receiving yards against the Chiefs. He has had a receiving line of 85, 56, and 47 the last 3 games. He's averaging 62.6 yards per game. So my last prop bet for that one is Dallas Goedert over his 49.5 receiving. And just to get crazy with it, if you want to parlay all of those props, the Saquon, the Kareem Hunt touchdown, the over on the Hurts passing, Mahomes 1+ touchdown, Kareem Hunt's over rushing, and Goddard's and Kelce's over receiving, that is a plus 28.33 parlay right there. $10 will win you about $283. That is what we got for Bets with Swagoo.
Breaking out the big gun. So I got a yellow flag here, not for the bets. I love the bets, but for not using that hat more often. I mean, we need to see a little bit more of that. That was styling and profiling. We're going to need a little bit more of that from you.
When I tell you that I have to pretty much beg my wife to let me take that out of the room. She's not happy I bought it. But
on behalf of
it had to be worn
we
for something.
support your begging. All right, so we got Bets with Swagoo. We know where all the money's going to be at now. So Jared, what's one bet from the Super Bowl that you like that Matt did not mention?
So we all know Super Bowl MVP either is a complete like favoritism, like the number 1 player on the team gets it if he even has a decent game. But there's always every couple of years, Malcolm Smith, or I believe Dexter Jackson was the guy who got it in 2002 for the Buccaneers. So throw me Jalen Carter for Super Bowl MVP, just wrecking the game. He is plus 10,000 odds. So, I mean, you throw $1 down, you're getting at least $100. I'm doing it. So there you go. That's my long shot right there.
That's a big one. If you do make that bet, you'll have to drive yourself right to the sports book to cash that one out. Just drive responsibly and safely. But Antonio, looking at the Super Bowl bets, which one do we like here in this game?
Yeah, and we've touched on it a million times today that the Eagles they salivate at man coverage. Jalen Hurts loves seeing his guys one-on-one, and one of those guys happens to be arguably a top 5 route runner that I've seen with my eyes, and it's Devonta Smith, who averages about 100 yards a game in his last 3 against the Spags defense. They love blitzing. That leaves him one-on-one. Not to say I know more than Spags, but covering Devonta Smith one-on-one isn't the brightest choice. And his line, this was checked yesterday. This could have changed, but it was at a measly 51.5. He had a monster Super Bowl last time, and he clearly likes playing the Chiefs via his last 3 matchups. So I'm going to take the over on Devonta Smith, 51.5 receiving yards.
One thing we know about Devonta Smith is when it comes to big games, he always finds a way to show up at national championship games, Super Bowls. It's big game Devonta Smith. what he lacks in weight, he makes up in big plays when they count. I'm going to go into the very random deep depths of degeneracy for my one bet. We're going to go with Noah Gray over receiving yards at 12.5. So you tell me he gets 113-yard catch. He has hit the over. When it comes to the Chiefs, they always find a way to not throw it to the guys that everybody bets on, yet they still get away with it. And the Super Bowls always feature someone random making a big play. Every single time, it's basically death, taxes, and it's bound to happen. So we're going to go with Noah Gray over 12.5 receiving yards for this game because degeneracy at its finest. But that's what we have for belly up bets. And now we're going to go to the final part of the show. It is the pick'ems. We're going to see where everybody is going to put their money, where their mouth is. So we'll go and take a look at the picks for the group. And as we see a relatively balanced, a slight lean towards the Eagles. So Antonio, I'm going to let you start. How do we get to this, the 35-27 Eagles victory?
So the most unreal, I just want to say 35-27. The most unrealistic thing about this is that Jake Elliott, makes all his PATs. I'm just going to throw that out there now, but I have faith in my guy. I think it kind of goes, I think it could go down pretty similar to the Eagles' their first and only Super Bowl win, where, the Hurts and Mahomes are absolutely dueling it out. And the Eagles take they may take a 28-27 lead, but Mahomes has the ball and there's 4 minutes left on the clock. And we talk about winning the turnover battle. At this point, it could be 1-1, it could be 0-0. I think Philly will come up with a big play. They'll settle going up for 8 instead of trying to go up for 9, as being up 7 could be a dangerous game. And then not enough time for the first time you'll probably ever hear that. Not enough time for Patrick Mahomes to work his way down the field, but points will be put up. And while I think the Eagles can still win the turnover battle, they're very active in the peanut punch. The turnovers will be at a premium, and the Chiefs will cough up one at a very unfortunate time. Mahomes, if you're chasing Brady, you got to have a big turnover in a big spot.
Little shades of 2017, and Brandon Graham, who did in 2017, he's back and good to go for this game. Maybe history repeats itself. But Matt, we're going to go with you, as you decided to also go with the Eagles with a very, very fancy choice of numbers here. So I'm curious, what made you lead to that score?
Well, I think this is going to be one of those games where the Eagles kind of break away, maybe at the end of the game, and the Mahomes does what he does best, plays catch up. But this time, I think the Eagles defense gets the job done. So what I have going on with this is I think we're going to have a 23-20 type game. Eagles score, make it 30-23. Mahomes drives the ball down the field late, scores a touchdown, converts the 2-point conversion to make it a oh, nope, I got that one wrong. I thought it was 31-28. Listen, the Eagles are going to break away. They're going to win this game. The Chiefs, they're going to play catch up, like I said. They're going to get a couple 2-point conversions. They're going to play behind. Eagles defense gets it done. Quinion Mitchell, game-winning interception right there. And that's what I have. I thought I had 31-28, and I was squinting really hard, and that looked like a 1, but it's a 0. And I did just have my eye exam. They did say my prescription changed. Should have bought another one. But that's what I have. Quinion Mitchell is going to win that game for them.
I think you should bet the exact score 30-28, because that way, if it is 31-28, or if you bet 31-28, you're going to kick yourself. It ends up being 30-28. So
I do have a square that's 0 and 8.
You know what? I believe in you. It could happen. So, Jared, we knew what the final result was going to be, but tell us how we got to that score of 31-23.
Listen, you don't believe in your boys. What's the point, right? I will say this. The way it's going to come down, the Eagles will get pressure on Mahomes this game. And it's going to come down to the last drive. Like Matt said, Phillips going to come down and score. Either it's a Jake Elliott field goal to put him and make it a 2-score game, or a 1-score game, but with a 2-point conversion, they get a late touchdown. Either way. Last drive, maybe a minute left or so. Little rush. Mahomes does his magic, rolls out, sees Kelsey, but a little overthrown. The goat of exciting whites, Reed Blankenship picks him off. Jalen takes a knee, and the Eagles are 2-time Super Bowl champs. That is how I see it ending. I think the pressure from Mahomes is going to get him a little jumpy. And he might sail one on Kelsey. No flags thrown because it's too high. Nobody's near him, and that's how the game ends. It's happened to every great quarterback we've ever seen. So I could see it happen for Mahomes in this one.
All right, for sure. And then we do see Nate as well. So it's clean sweep for the corner booth going with the Eagles. You see Kelsey and I both going with the Chiefs, and I can speak almost for sure based on both of our reasonings how we both went this one. Because in our entire history of doing this show, every year we did neither one of us put the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they won it. But every year one of us put the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they lost. And since neither one of us put the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in our preseason prediction show, it might be entirely our fault if they pull off the three-piece. So that's what Kelsey are going with this. I have 30-28. Kelsey has 34-24. As we heard from Brian earlier, 23-17. We appreciate y'all for joining us here ahead of the Super Bowl, the big game. Let us know in the comments below what you think the final score will be and who will win, preferably before the game. It's not as much fun if you do it afterwards because no one wants to be the smartest guy in the room afterwards. Once again, we have Jared from the corner booth, Matt from the corner booth, and Antonio from Sideline Summit, and I'm DJ from High Low Sports. We appreciate y'all for joining us here and have fun at the big game.